Hey, BookTube. Um, July wrap up. Now, I know I told you that I was going to try to do wrap ups weekly um, because they seem to be getting kind of out of control. But I stopped doing that, and I think it was because I was so stressed about. Stressed is the wrong word, but to be honest, Booktubeathon completely just boned my TBR. And I'll tell you why. Because I have not like the past, this year, okay? I've had like a steady thing. Like this week, these are the types of books I read. This week I read this. And at the end of the month, I'm going to jump into a Travis McGee, John McDonald book, blah, 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 blah. Well, I got all excited and I'm like, okay, I'm going to put together a bunch of books for my TBR. And so I put together a bunch of books and even did that god awful D20 try to pick a book thing. And I didn't even end up reading that book. So, nuts to you, pal. And that's how that went down. But before we go any further, I would really like to tell you a story about what has happened in the last half hour. I'm thinking that this is going to crash. It might not. Okay, so I'm getting my books together because I read 20 books in the month of July. So I'm getting my books together of what I read so I could show it to you. And I can't find a book. And I start losing my shit. And I'm like, okay, I'll tell you what book it was too. It was Pellucid by Edgar Rice Burroughs, which is the second book in the Pellucid series, which is the sequel to At the Earth's Core. Now, we went through every bookcase. We took books out of bookcases. I checked bathrooms. I checked the cushions outside and the seats outside. The bedroom, my Nick Carter shelf, the room where the printer is, like Zoe's office. We looked everywhere. Zoe was helping me. She was on the ground looking under the couch. And this went on for like a half hour. I checked the car, and I was getting madder and madder. And then finally she says to me, she says, "Do you think it was an ebook?" Gasp. And then I realized that yes, I have At the Earth's Core.
Half an hour.
And I was getting pissed. Here's what I actually thought. I had three theories. One theory was robbers. Like, I left it outside maybe, and some tourist was just walking by and saw a book on a table and said, I want to read that book. So that was my first theory. Second theory was wind. That maybe the wind blew the book off the table and it fell down under the deck on the rocks. So when I went out to look in the car, I was trying to look under the deck, but all the rocks are different colors and that wasn't helping. My eyesight's not brilliant. Then I thought maybe Charlie and his little bird friends took my book as a joke, ripped it up, and made nests with it. Then I thought it just actually disappeared. Like, maybe It just went into a different realm of some sort. But no, it was a fucking ebook. And as soon as she said it, because if you saw that video, I got the ebook on Project Gutenberg, and I was like banging on about it, how awesome that was, because I was so pissed at the cliffhanger ending of At the Earth's Core that I needed to jump right into Pellucid. And I felt really dumb. Zoe even said that that's something she would do, but not me. Not me. But her, yes. And then she would have a good laugh about it. But I was angry. I was storming around. But anyway, so at the end of the day, crisis averted. And the lesson here learned is, if you're missing a book, first think, was it an ebook? And if you could cross that off your list, then start looking and tearing apart your bookshelves. So, with that said, let's get right into it. And I think I'm going to start... I've never done it like this, I don't think. I'm going to start with the books that I gave the worst ratings to. Let me see here. So, what I would like to do... I can't remember exactly what I read first, but I guess it really doesn't matter at the end of the day. So here we go. The worst books I read in July. Now, the first one is going to cause some controversy between me, probably. Is Henry Rollins Get in the Van, about touring with Black Flag. Now, it's not the worst book. I gave it 3 stars. It's not the worst book I read this month because it's not a good book. It's just the book starts off with so much excitement and positivity and like optimism, and then as it goes more and more, it just gets so fucking depressing and sad. So it ended on a note that I didn't like. Not that I want to go back in time and change history or anything, but so I've talked about that before. Another book that I read this month that had a 3-star rating was The 10 Cent War, the book that never comes out properly on these videos. Maybe if I get really close. Yeah, that's a lot better. It's a book of essays about comics, World War II, and the propaganda that America used inside the comic books, basically for the war effort and stuff like that. Now, the only reason why this got a 3 is because it is very dry and it is very repetitive. Very, and it's very scholarly. So if you like, I've talked about this one before too, if you like your scholarly essays, and you are completely familiar and alright with the repetitious nature of that medium, then this is a book for you, especially if you like World War II and comic books. So, but I learned a lot of cool stuff. It was a great book. It was just drier than a sock that I pull out of the drawer and stick in my mouth. It was just very, very dry. In case any of you guys pull socks out of drawers and shove them in your mouth, which I'm sure a lot of people do. The next one, I'm like looking at like how I rated these books, and it's like shocking me a little bit. But the Adventures of Sherlock Holmes by author Conan Doyle. this book was good. But the reason why it wasn't great was because it's a bunch of short stories, obviously. And it took me a really long time to get through this because when you finish a story, there's nothing pushing you to go to the next story. So you finish a story and you could like put it down and walk away and be completely done with it. And then like a day or two later go, oh my gosh, yeah, I am in the middle of reading that. So, but other than that, it was good, and it had Irene Adler in it in the first story, and that was really, really fun. Um, but yeah, so that happened. And then I had 3 paperback, I don't want to call them stinkers by any means, but just 3 books in a row that I was really bummed out with. And these I read in the 24 and 48. So, Mickey Spillane, Survival Zero. This was I can't remember what number it is, but it's like around 10 or 11. But it was the last Mike Hammer book in like almost. This came out in like 71. The next book came out, I think, in 88. It just started off like most Mike Hammer books do, with him finding a friend of his dead, and a bunch of stuff happening after that. But like a lot of the Mike Hammer books became like an espionage, trying to stop the Russians kind of book instead of like a detective story. So that kind of killed that for me. Next is Nick Carter's Checkmate in Rio. This one is written by Valerie Molman, and she's very dull. She puts a lot of sex in the books, and the sex isn't even that good. Not that I've ever had sex with Valerie Molman, but the sex in her books was kind of dry. That also could be a setup for another joke that I'm going to skip. But this just wasn't as exciting as other Nick Carter books. So the Survival Zero gets a 3. This gets a 3. Now, you would think that these would get less, but I did enjoy reading them. They just weren't. Like, the Mickey Spillane book, there are, like, 5-star Mike Hammer books. And that was just sad. Nick Carter the same way. There's some Nick Carter books that are amazing. And this one just, it's entertaining, but it's not amazing. And the same is said with The Spider, the Master of Men. This is one of 2 written by R.T.M. Scott. This is the first Spider. This was a pulp action hero in the days of the pulp magazines. It started off so good. The first half of this book was like impossible to put down. Then everything came to a screeching halt, and it was like my grandma crawling on her hands and knees backwards up a mountain. It just was so slow. So that bummed me out. But the first half of this was damn well worth it. Damn well, I say. Okay, so let's get into the 4s. Actually, this is a good opportunity to do 2 by the same author that I did. I just gotta find him. Okay, so I started the month off with Ham on Rye by Charles Bukowski. Now this book, and that's him actually right there in the middle. There we go. This book basically, like, there's about 5 books in the Henry Chininsky saga, I guess you could call it, but really it's just a biography of Charles Bukowski. And this is from like being a baby until he gets out of high school. And no, he actually does a bit of college. So his school years, I guess you would say. And this was really good, and I've said it on another video too, but I think it was really good because I really related a lot with the character, not so much with what was happening to him, but the things that were happening with him, if that makes any sense. Like, it was all very reminiscent. It was almost like he like went into my head and stole parts of my past and put it in a book and put his name on it. It was just really, really a fun read, very enjoyable. Now, I think the next book chronologically is Factotum, and this book is so Ham on Rye I gave 4 stars to. This I gave 3 stars to, and the reason for that is just because it was very, very it was just kind of, I don't want to say depressing necessarily, but it's basically like factotum means like a jack of all trades. And so this book is basically just about all the jobs he's had in his life. And if you've read Notes of a Dirty Old Man, Ham on Rye, and Post Office, a lot of the stuff that's going on in here will almost seem monotonous. Like, it's, I don't know how to say it. It was good. It had its moments. It had a lot of depressing bits, and some of the honesty that he goes into in this, we probably could have not had. He was a wee bit too honest in certain bits, but it was good. Again, like, I'm enjoying everything of his I'm reading, but some stuff is better than others. And it's hard not to judge people's work based on other works of theirs. I try not to, but it's really hard to pull that off. So, let's see here. Then the Quarry books. I got into some Quarryness. I read, no, it's this way. Quarry's Vote, which was really good. I really liked it. 4 stars on it. And this basically, as far as I know now, this book was the end of the original Quarry series. But this is the reprint that Hardcase Crime did with a beautiful, beautiful cover. This is good. It has to do with a election coming up, and him being asked to kill a candidate who is so hardcore right-wing that people are nervous about it and all this other stuff. And he was getting a lot of momentum, so they wanted him stopped. It's a good one, but the one that was better than that even was The Last Quarry, which is, I believe, as the title says, the last Quarry book chronologically in his life. After The Last Quarry, it goes to the first Quarry, and that's the beginning of this whole Hitman thing. And I believe the following 6 books after the first Quarry kind of go up to maybe Quarry. I don't know exactly. I haven't. I don't want to read anything about him. I want to be like surprised when I'm reading him. But this was really good. It gave a nice like finale to a character that you end up getting like 6 more books of. So that was a lot of fun. And then another one was Day Keen's Home as a Sailor. This was so fun. If you are okay with insta-love, it totally worked in this. It's about a guy who has been on a boat for like, oh man, I can't remember how long, maybe 18 years. He's been saving up all of his money. And in one night, he gets plastered, beats up some dude. The cops are looking for him. This chick takes him to this place to hide him out. And he's a total dick to her. And then it turns out that she really saved his skin. And then he ends up having to cover up a murder with her. And yeah, so it's one of those fun books. But it's really well written, paced amazingly. I really enjoyed that. Let's see here. We did those, did that. Ooh, and then we have a 5-star-ber. And what is that 5-star book, you might ask? Because actually, no, let's not do that. Let's jump through all of my 4 stars. So, oh yeah, and I also read Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas again and listened to the audiobook twice in July. I'm not really counting that, but that did happen. I swear this will be the last time you see this book on this channel unless something makes me have to show it to you again. Forever and a Death, 4 stars, really good book, especially if you take the James Bond angle out of it. This book was a screenplay that Donald Westlake wrote for Eon Studios to be the sequel to GoldenEye, and it didn't work. And in the back it tells you all the reasons why it didn't work. They have one of the producers give an afterword. But this book was really good. I let my stepdad borrow it. He was all over it. He loved it. So if you've never read Donald Westlake before, this just came out in June. Pick it up. It's a really good read. But just put the James Bond aspect of it out of your head, because it's not, as he changed it for a book, he took out that element of James Bond. So it's still like an action-adventure, espionage type book, but there's no 00 nothing. So, but it's really, really good. Okay, so let's see here. What else we got? Oh, yeah. Okay. So I did all of the, and we've talked about this before too. I swear to God, there's going to be books that we haven't talked about. Which one was first? I think this one was first. So I did all of the Batman, all the owls, like the Night of the Owls, Court of Owls, and what was the middle one called? Night of the Owls. Oh, City of Owls. That's the last one, actually. So, this is the first one. It was great. They were all great. And then Night of the Owls. And then City of Owls. The art is amazing. The stories were great, written well. Like, everything about these were really good. And this is what, when the New 52 happened, this is what they started with Batman. And, geez Louise, man, it was amazing. Like, it's just one of the coolest and best Batman stories. Basically, the story is there's these group of rich people who really control the city and have for hundreds of years, called maybe 200 years, but called the Owls, the Court of Owls. And Batman never knew they existed. He heard about them as a kid as like a thing to scare him and all this other stuff, but he didn't think they were real. And then he finds out that after all this time, that this group has really been running everything in Gotham. And then they try to take him out because he's figured it out. And they have this guy called the Talon. They actually have a bunch of them. And the Talon is super badass. So, it's just really, really cool. I really enjoyed it. Okay. Now, the Charles Burroughs and Jack Kerouac and the hippos were boiled in their tanks. I'm really sorry. There we go. This was really good. Very different from William Burroughs. This is the first thing he wrote. They buried it. If you saw my video, my Booktubeathon video, you know exactly what that's like, because I just talked about it there. Then another 5-star book. Oh, I thought I lost it again. Jeez. Edgar Rice Burroughs at the Earth's Core. Freaking so good. It was really good. I've talked about it before. It was great. Pellucid, the next book. Like, really, you could put these two books together as one book. And it has an awesome beginning, middle, and end. Kind of in a happy way, like Star Wars Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi does. It's just so good. It's about a guy and another guy who build this thing and accidentally go to the center of the earth and find out there's a whole other civilization down there. And this guy, David, falls for Dean the Beautiful. Anyway, it's really good. Pellucid, that's the cover for that one. Sorry. Yeah. Super good. This is the book that I thought I had, like, a book of, and I didn't. And we were tearing the freaking house up. Never gonna hear the end of that, by the way. In case you didn't know. In case you didn't know how things work around here. So, back to the 5-star words. Richard Stark, who is Donald Westlake, but The Hunter, the first Parker novel, was action-packed, super fun. He basically goes to pull a job with some people, and his wife is left for dead by all of them, and comes back to get revenge. It is so good. Really, really, really good. So that was a $5 for me. And I think the last $5 I got here is Cop Hater. Look at this beautiful first edition copy of Cop Hater by Ed McBain, the first in the 87th Precinct series. My wife got this for me because she loves me. It's really, really cool. Look at it, go. This was so fucking good. Oh, man, I'm trying to really calm down a little bit here. It was really good. Very police procedural with, like, 1950s forensics. Oh, it was really, really good. It's about someone who's killing cops. And they're killing detectives of the 87th Precinct. And so everyone's on high alert, super scared, super awesome. And then just so you guys know, too, I read this. This is a zine called Dead in Hollywood by a buddy of mine. It's a Castro Burger zine. But this one is about Dorothy Stratton. He has done a few, like, I think 3 of these now. And he does a whole full-color book on someone who was a famous Hollywood somebody who died tragically. And it's really creative and collagey. And for those of you who requested a copy of the Paperback Junky Zine that looks like this. Not the first batch I mailed out, but the second batch, because that's when I got these. I put a bunch of these in those envelopes. Not a bunch in each envelope, but one in each of the envelopes I sent out. So if you were someone to get the second batch, if you open a package from me and this is in there and you don't know why, it's a buddy of mine wanted me to get these out to people who would probably dig it, and I'm assuming you would dig it. So, with that said, that is what I read. There's a bunch of other stuff that I started reading that I didn't finish that we will get into in a sec. So, until a second, we'll see you later.